In this episode of the Headlight Restoration Pro, you will learn how to restore heavily oxidized headlights like this and learn why these headlights have gone so heavily oxidized on this vehicle. Take them from this and turn them into something more like this. Please forgive me for the direct sunlight, performing this headlight restoration in direct sunlight today. Let's get down to business. Pay attention to those heavily oxidized spots all throughout this rather large headlight, and also the swirl marks going all the way through like something's been brushing. We'll get into that and explain how that happens here in a minute. Starting off here, we're using a gold 3M P500 disc. See, I'm doing the sensitive areas there to make sure my disc is fresh, hitting that area there. Also, when sanding lights like this, you want to see how all this part here is clear and this part is clear, this part's clear, and then all this here is all messed up, sun beaten, damaged. You want to work on those damaged areas first while the disc is fresh, because you're going to have to be doing a lot more grinding, a lot deeper grinding than in the places that are clear. You want to pay more attention to those places that are damaged and sun-beaten like that, because they require more pressure from the disc. They require more sanding from the disc. You want to pay attention to those first and then do the clear spots, because the clear spots, once again, aren't so bad. They're just going to have the clear coat removed so the new clear coat can be replaced. So what I tend to do is just pretty much start on those areas first and pay extra attention to those, then come back and hit all the clear spots again. But now let me touch bases on the sanding discs. The P500, P800, P whatever it is, whenever you have a P in front of it, it's measured off a different scale. It's measured off a European scale. Okay, so it's not the same as the number you would think. A P500 is not equivalent to a 500 grit sandpaper. Pay heed to that, ladies and gentlemen, because you'll get in here and you'll start using a sandpaper way too heavy or way too light. P's and regular sandpapers tend to break away from each other about 230. So up to about 230 or so, they are equivalent, but the higher numbers are off by equivalency. Let me pull up a quick chart right here to show you. Alright, here's a quick scale I pulled up from the internet here. There are dozens, if not hundreds of them on there. It tells you the breakdown or what the equivalent is. There are different scales here: ultra fine, super fine, extra fine, very fine. Here goes one I actually use here that you see all the time. The P800, which is the white disc, is equivalent to these here, and it is a super fine, or better yet, even say here, this is the extra fine category, and I use this here. The P500 is equivalent to the 360 or 320 and a regular sanding disc that you would just go buy at Home Depot that does not have a P in front of it. In my experience, the European discs are a little bit higher grade. They seem to last longer, and the granulates that they use on them are much more microabrasive and just better to use for headlight restoration and certain car services. Okay, back to the headlight here. Touching up all those little clear spots I was talking about here. Still using that P500. That's the, even though it's listed as a fine grit, which, you know, it is, but it's designed to demolish. It's the perfect grit to demolish or remove all the bad stuff in the headlight on the opening stages. Everything you use on a headlight should be fine grit. I had a person who was watching my video shoot me a question about, he had scratches left behind, in his finished product. It could be because of the misunderstanding of P in front of the discs versus regular discs. He could have been using something he thought was, a P500, but it might have been a 500 disc, and it might have been too coarse for the headlights, and he did not catch all the swirling on the final product. Which you want to pay attention to the step where you douse it with water. That step there, you should be able to see how clear it is. In that step there, you should be able to see how many, if there's any swirls that you need to take care of. Also, the step after polishing, you should be able to see that before you seal that. Want to make sure you check for those at the end before you final seal it. Nice smooth strokes, always using a steady stroke, using two hands. Using pretty much the weight and pressure of the drill, never pushing. There goes my handy dandy computer duster, electronic computer duster. It's very handy. If you're interested in getting one, check out my link in the bio. It has all the information and links to everything that I use in my videos, from tape to even stools and stuff like that. All of my tools and supplies are in that link, the exact. And if you're a first timer to this, don't freak out at this spot where you're like, oh my god, I ruined my headlight. It's the funniest thing when you start realizing this is what it is. The first 3, 4, 5, 6 headlights I did, I freaked out damn near every time because it just turns white and it just looks like I made it worse. But no, you're making it better. You're healing it. You're smoothing everything out nice and smooth. Now let's touch bases on why these headlights went bad. Those big oxidized spots and those heavy swirls and scratching on the surface of the headlight. Basically, the surface of the headlight was removed from oxidation, sunlight damage, and also the main reason was car washes. Non-touchless car washes did this to this, aka the car washes with the big rotary brushes touch the surface of this headlight. They scratch everything through there and they take off the surface of headlight slowly by slowly. Over time, in combination with the oxidation and sunlight UV, just pretty much ate this headlight to hell. Check out this short video to give you a little bit more insight on that.
Car washes. When you're driving through non-touchless car washes, they have foam rotators that rotate and clean the sides, fronts, and back and top of your vehicle. Not all these parts are equal. The front of your vehicle gets bombarded a little bit heavier than all the rest of the areas. Primarily the front sides, where 99% vehicles' headlights are located. Even if the car wash is using scratchless foam pads, that is all dependent on how well they keep up their pads and who's washed your car before yours, which is usually dozens if not hundreds. Those pads get soaked with granulates and particles from the other vehicles that washed their vehicles before yours, scraping into your headlight coating and headlight, and even more. Slowly over time, eventually diminishing your headlight coating until they start to look something like this. See those striations there and the absence of any kind of clear coat, and it's actually digging into the actual material of the headlight, the plastic. This is from years of drive-through car washing, and without that UV protectant there, the sun will just eat that plastic up.
The rest of this video, Headlight Restoration, Why Do Headlights Go Bad, is now streaming on my channel. Check it out. Very informative. Still working here with the same P500 sanding disc. It's getting a little beat up at this point. Still got a little grit on it, working it. Notice how my strokes are a little bit different than from the beginning. It's a really large light. Now I'm kind of doing a smoothing out motion, leveling out all the bad spots and the regular spots. Yeah, see that pad a little beat up here, changing it right now. But anyways, leveling out all of the spots that I did a lot of work on and the spots that I did a little bit of work on, just removing the clear coat and just finishing it up here, doing a little touch up with the brand new P500, still the gold disc, fresh as you see it, shearing off all the stuff, all of that dust. Don't be afraid to use your supplies. I mean, you got to use what it takes. Don't overuse them, of course. Don't just sit there for 20 pads going at it, but you got to gauge and you got to use the minimum equipment, minimum supplies that you need to get the job done correctly. As you see there, patting the end of that pad, checking the temperature at the same time, just fanning it off. It gets hot working with the speed setting between 12 and 1700 RPMs. It gets hot and you'll prematurely burn through your pad and cause undue heat to the surface of the headlight, which can cause a burning, which is, if you're not too comfortable with doing headlight restoration, you should work at a lesser speed. You should be able to feel the leveling out of all the little spots and whatnot. You should be able to feel the smoothness, the less grab of the sandpaper bit. That's when you know it's time to move on as well to the next step. Besides visual and touch, the pad does not tend to grip as much on all surfaces of the light. It just kind of hovers and smooths across it. You should be able to feel it with the pad. This is the white P800 disc. This is a very fine pad. This is basically to smooth out and delete any damage left behind by the more aggressive P500 gold disc that you used before this step. As you see there, you can see the smoothness kicking in right there. You see all those little ripples or whatnot. It just smooths everything out really nice. It's one of the magic pads is what I call it. It really deletes like 99% of the damage left behind from the gold P500. Also, as you see, I try to get these hard areas on the edges and that little hump right there I'm working on right now. I try to get these areas first when the pad is fresh, because when the pad is fresh, it's going to be working its hardest. You want to get those delicate areas with a fresh pad. That way you leave less streaks or any kind of nicks or anything that can happen when you're using a duller pad on these areas. It's more prone to have accidents or issues going on. So being that this is a huge light, as you see, I'm putting another pad on here and I'm going over it again. This light is pretty big. If you notice, it stretches all the way around to where you can't see. You'll see that again once I dismount the camera from my stand. You'll see it's a pretty enormous light. It's generally the size of two headlights. This is a 2015 Toyota Highlander. It's one of the ones in my book where it kind of got like a red flag next to it because the light is really huge and the pricing difference is a little bit different. It takes a lot more time, it takes a lot more effort, elbow grease, and a lot more supplies, which takes a lot of money altogether. Got the same disc here on my yellow gimbal with my interface pad here. All these products and supplies are in the bio. It takes you straight to Amazon to purchase the exact supplies and tools that I have on all my videos. This is a swirl deleting or scratch deleting, circular scratch deleting step that I use here. Any kind of circles or any kind of swirl that is a circle or a crescent shape, like a partial circle, quarter circle, anything like that, they tend to be more visible. They don't fill as well, and they are more catchable by the eye, and they don't delete as well on this next step. So what I do here is just side to side motions, or up and down, horizontal or vertical, in a shearing motion. We're not like, not too much elbow grease, not too much pressure, just kind of shearing it off, shaving it off with the sandpaper. It's a real delicate step here. These straight lines fill in and delete very easy and gives you that crystal clear appearance. When you're up close, you don't see all those little nicks and scratches and stuff. It's not a must on every light. Some lights are different. These Toyota lights and Lexus lights are a little bit soft. On the softer variety of lights, you're going to need to be doing this. It would enhance your headlight restoration by far. On the harder lights, it's not that big of a deal because everything comes out a little bit easier. Got some regular water, tap water. No need to get all fancy and spend money on distilled water or nothing like that. Just regular tap water works just fine. Using my P3000 Trizac pad. These Trizac pads are not the typical pads for two reasons. This is a P3000 Trizac pad, which means it operates on that P scale, once again, that European scale. And also, it's a Trizac pad, which means it is a pad. It's the one disc that is actually a pad. It's kind of spongy, it's real flexible, and it has the grit on top of that pad. If you imagine just like it's the thickness of maybe 8-10 discs together, because it has like a little sponge behind it. It's my other magic pad that I call it. It does a lot. It removes, it does a really fine sanding method here. It removes all the little fine details, that little 1% scratches that are left over from the white pad, the P800. It removes all those. And this is a step, ladies and gentlemen, right here. This is just basic Windex. When you're spraying this, you should be looking for those scratches. And when you're wiping this off, you see that? There's no scratches. There's no nothing. And before it dries, of course, you want to be inspecting it while you're wiping it before it dries, because once it dries, it's harder to see. But when it's clear, you can see everything. And also, just for reference, I do scratch removal as well. It's one of the services I provide. When you're checking a scratch to make sure that it is pretty much dwindled down far enough to be equivalent with the surface around it, aka non-visible, one of the tests you use is to spray water over it or a liquid substance over it. And then if you can't see it, that means you've done a good job, and you can start building that back up. It's the same kind of principle with that last step there. That's why everything gets so clear once it's wet. Okay, so now we're going on here to the dab method. We're using my hard plastic lens polish here, dabbing it on with a 3M orange finesse it pad. Is another magic pad. It's just an amazing product. Once again, 3M. They don't pay me to say this, but I say it just because it is what it is. It's what this is, the educational channel. 3M products are by far more superior than most other products out there on the market. They've been around longer. They have a lot more money. They put a lot more time and quality and scientific research into their products. Most people cannot compete with that. Also using my 12-volt, 3-inch AC Delco polisher here. Has two settings. Most of the settings that I'm doing here that you'll be seeing is the second setting, the highest setting, which is about 7,000 RPM. It goes really fast. You got to know how to work it. You got to make sure everything is lubricated as to not create any burns in the headlight or just eat through your pad, but it's pretty durable. On those corners and special sensitive areas, you want to slow it down because it's more prone to burn, or destroy your pad in certain areas. And this is 7,000 RPM, but if you can hear it, I'm not full gunning it, meaning that it is actually 0 to about 7,000 RPM, which just depends on how hard you squeeze the trigger. Different areas, I just squeeze it different. Those big flat spaces, I generally just gun it. But other areas and curves, you want to slow it down a little bit to kind of test out and see what's going on. Now, what you're seeing right now is a lot of sunlight, a lot of glare. What I'm looking at right here is already super crystal clear. You can kind of see right there in the shadows, but it is super sunny out of this day. It's about 87 degrees, getting to be summertime, and I'm in direct sun for the first time of the day, the high point of the day, about 2 o'clock. So the sun's right above me, just killing my camera feed. But it's looking good. You'll see once I dismount the camera. Once again, that is my electric keyboard duster, and once again, they are all the products and all my little things that I actually use are in the bio. Most of them are from Amazon, where I do most of my business. About 98% of my business I order from Amazon. Only time I don't is if they don't have it, which is extremely rare. I don't get paid to plug these companies or anything like that. It's just, this is what I do, is just telling the truth. A lot of things are just what they are. Alright, getting ready for the final step here. As you see, I blew everything down, I wiped everything off. You actually want to wipe off everything all the way around the headlight, about a foot around in each direction, just to make sure no dust blows or anything gets into the headlight when you're doing this step. As you see, the fan spray on that is amazing on these cans. The most valuable thing about this can is the tip. I would use this tip on other cans as well, other Headlight UV sprays. I take the can, the tip off this can, and put it on their can. This is the meguiars headlight coating. That's one of the ones I use, but primarily I use it on the video just because it's so small. It's probably the smallest one. It's easier to use. Alright, now gonna go ahead and let this dry for a second. It dries in about 3 minutes to the touch. It takes about 16 hours and about 80-degree heat to fully cure. A hot day like this and directly in the sun like it is, literally take about 60 seconds to dry to the touch. Gonna go ahead and dismount this camera here to give you guys a closer and better view, hopefully not with all this sunlight in it. It's such a long light that you're looking like downward or downslope at it. It's very elongated, and I'm going to show you this here, how far it wraps around. You didn't even see all that other stuff on the other side here. But as you see, even in direct sunlight, it's crystal clear, beautiful. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, ask questions, and stay tuned for future videos. Should be coming out soon.